Good afternoon, Edgewood Golf Shop. This is Greg. How can I help you? Yeah, Greg, I'm wondering if I can get a tee time for later today. Sure, you bet. What time would you like? Do you have anything around 7 o'clock? Yeah, I sure do, but you do understand that sunset's 7:19 today. What? When did that happen? Click. Welcome to the podcast, What's My Tee Time? My name is Greg McCullough. I'm the golf professional at Edgewood Golf Course. I'm joined today by...
Hello, this is Matt Cook, Rose Creek golf professional.
7:19, wants to play at 7. How many holes do you think he's going to get in? And are we charging him an 18-hole fee?
I think we did. If you're going to make a tee time at that time, I think we're just getting that whole 18 holes out of him. And
when did that happen, he says? What are you doing with your life when you don't know what time it gets dark?
Yeah, I don't think Mother Nature tricks us or anything like that. I think we knew that it was coming.
I was just dumbfounded there. I didn't know how to actually answer the question.
It really is surprising, though, how many people, I think, when we do have that time, not so much time change, but as we get later in the fall and those days do get so short, if they haven't been playing a lot of golf, all of a sudden they're kind of thinking, well, I played at 7 usually in July, and next thing you know, it's October, and that ain't going to happen any longer.
And this could possibly just be me because I understand the daylight hours of when things happen. But I bet my face was, I know my jaw dropped on the counter, and I just really didn't know how to answer him after he said, when did that happen? I should have had a nice, cool response for him, but I didn't. So here we are again today, Matt. We're going to try this one more time. We're on episode 3. Do you have any funny tee time stories? I will talk about a funny tee time story I had. We were talking before we got on the air. In the past, during match play, and I played the Pine and Palm every year. It's really the only amateur event I miss playing in since I turned pro 3 decades ago. But at that time when we played in match play, you could show up any time during your match. You were just down that number of holes. And many times at the Pine and Palm, especially consolation matches, but not always consolation. Even like in the flight, sometimes people wouldn't necessarily show up exactly on their tee time. And if you're familiar with Detroit Country Club, number 6 tee is right by the clubhouse. So there was this one time we were out there playing. I was playing a match. My guy showed up, and the other gentleman, who was a good player from Minnesota, was just playing along. And he was pretty relaxed, as you would be. You're thinking, well, I just need to play 10 holes and I'm done. And we get to the 6th tee, and there's a gentleman lying on the bench with his hat over his face. And I'm thinking, well, he's just had a tough night, which tends to happen at the Pine and Palm. And we show up there, and he pops his head up, and he goes, are you the 7:36 tee time? And we said, yes. He goes, well, my name is Joe Blow. I can't remember what his name was. And so he's 5 down standing on that tee box. Well, he proceeds to win 4 of the next 6 holes, and he played pretty good. The gentleman he was playing against got a little shook on the 6th tee box and knocked it at that time into the parking lot. It went off a couple cars, so he was a little shook. He walked to the 7th tee after he knocked it out. We stood on 12 tee box, and he was only 1 ahead. And the gentleman who showed up on 6 proceeded to go birdie, 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 and then he made a couple pars, and the guy lost his match, like 3-2 or 4-3 after being 5 up after 5 holes. Matt, do you have any tee time stories that you'd like to share with us today?
Well, I'm usually kind of an individual that I just because I guess being in the golf business, I like to always arrive early. So I usually like to try to get to my tee time in plenty of time. So I don't remember myself being late, but I do remember playing here a few years back in our section championship. And I was paired with a friend of mine who is Corey Herlickson, who is a golf professional out at Oxbow.
Way to throw him under the bus, Matt.
And we were getting closer to our tee time. We were probably about 15 minutes out, and hadn't seen Corey yet, which I thought was really kind of strange. So I gave him a call on my phone. I said, hey, Corey, say, where are you guys at? We're on the tee in 15 minutes. And, Corey, just being Corey, he kind of just basically said without any concern at all, we're getting pretty close here. Just be there just a few minutes. No problem at all. And so I'm like, all right. Well, I'm up there kind of swinging the club a little bit and talking to our starter. And now it's about 5 minutes out. And I'm really going, wow, what's the deal? Did they get in an accident? And so once again, I gave Corey a quick call and said, Corey, I said, you know what, we got to hit it here in like 5 minutes. He goes, oh, yep, just about to pull in the parking lot. And I'm like, okay. So now it is our tee time, our official starting time. And so the starter says, go ahead. And I think I was on the tee first. And so I go ahead and hit my tee shot. And we were playing in threesomes that day. And so the second individual in our group, he was about to hit as well. And here I see Corey. We're at Bemidji Country Club, and the parking lot's located below this hill. And I see Corey making his walk up to the tee. And he gets up there, and I know the starter at that time. He says, hello, Mr. Herlichsen. You're on the tee next, and you have got right now 2 minutes, and you're hitting 3. Well, Corey then starts finding his golf glove and his golf ball, and he grabs his club, and he starts looking like he's doing some sort of a yoga or something like that. He's stretching on out, and I'm like, Corey, you got to hit it, dude. You got like now about 30 seconds before you're going to get DQ'd. And he just basically calms over and says, how much time do I got? Jim's like, 15 seconds. So Corey proceeds and able to hit his tee shot before getting DQ'd then, and proceeds to, I don't think it was a very good opening hole, but I think he recovered nicely after that. But that was one of my better stories that I remind Corey of every once in a while.
If you play in golf tournaments through your whole life like we have, we always have some funny stories that happen. We'll continue this discussion a little bit later in next shows and see if we can't get some funny stories on the air as we go through. Matt, I hear we have our first guest ever on this show. Why don't you tell me a little bit about him?
Yes, it was hard. I had to I searched, and I finally found an individual. Actually, the person I talked to was Adam Haugen. Adam Haugen had been a longtime assistant for me here at Rose Creek Golf Course. Actually, Adam had worked here longer than I had.
Does he have a nickname?
Well, it was the Tank.
Sorry, Adam.
Formerly known as the Tank. He's slimmed down now, though. And Adam's a great individual. He is now at the Preserve Golf Course out in Brainerd, Minnesota. I talked to Adam here. He had a chance to escape the warm weather and headed down to Phoenix. And so we're going to talk to Adam for a little bit in regards to about the waste management and a little bit what's going on in the Brainerd Golf area. So without further ado, here is Adam Haugen. Hello, Adam. How are things going in Brainerd, Minnesota today?
Cookie, things are going well. There's obviously a nice blanket of fresh snow on the ground, but we're battling through it.
Is it starting to add up there quite a bit too?
Yeah, we've got about 1.5 feet, 2 feet base, and we're adding a few more inches today. So it's wet out there, but we're looking forward to spring.
Well, despite all these cold temperatures and the snow building on up, I understand that recently you had an opportunity to head south to warmer climates and once again go and attend the waste management down in the Phoenix area.
Yeah, so this was my 15th year of 17 since when I started going to school down there in 2002. So in the spring of 2003 was the first time I attended, and I've only missed 2 years since then. So it's getting to be quite the tradition for us ASU guys down there, and it's like a reunion every year. Head back, so it's a lot of fun. We look forward to it every year.
Adam, I was there. It was called the Phoenix Open at that time. I think the year was 1994, so it's been a while. I remember from what I see on television now and what it was in 94, they don't look at all similar. Back in 94, I remember we were there on a few different days, but I remember the Sundays round because, it's Super Bowl Sunday it happened to be, and I think it was the Dallas Cowboys were playing the Buffalo Bills, and that was back in the era where both teams were really good. In fact, I think this was going to be Buffalo's 4th Super Bowl appearance, hadn't won it yet, and the Dallas Cowboys were trying to win their 4th victory. And at the Open that day, I remember Bill Glasson had like a 3 or 4 shot lead. And so we got to like hole 16, and I think myself and a friend of mine from Fergus Falls were about a couple of about 100 people that were on the golf course at that time. Everybody had headed out to go watch the Super Bowl. There was no stadium built around 16. And I remember following Glasson in on 17 and 18 and standing right up against the ropes along the side of the green on 18, feeling like we were the only people on the golf course. Now I watch on TV, and it appears to be a bit different since they've built the whole stadium on 16. Tell us a little bit about what it's like as far as that event now. and some of the things that maybe sites that you like to stand and watch.
Sure. This is actually the first year I've been to the tournament other than a Saturday. So I had a friend of mine from college who actually played in the event this year. He qualified by winning the Southwest Section Championship. So he played Thursday and Friday, so we followed him both days. And this is probably the most people I've ever seen on the golf course watching a group at the Phoenix Open. I mean, he was a no-name group, and there was probably 200-300 people following his group. But getting to hole 16, when I started going there in 03, there was about half a stadium. I mean, the tee box was surrounded. They were just starting to kind of get into that corporate, all the corporate sponsors and the booze up around the tee box there. But I mean, in the last 5, 7, 8 years, it's just blown up. That hole it's all the tournament committee members. They're trying to outdo each other year to year. So it's they're starting to reach that line where it might be heading over that line. But it's still a lot of fun. We had a little close call at the front gates this year trying to get in. There was a mad rush, and a couple of us went down and got trampled, but we survived. Thanks to the Scottsdale police pulling us off from under the pile. But we made the day worth it.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to survive that. That would have been horrible. Yes, I haven't heard the numbers. I heard that maybe they didn't even reveal them this year, but I did look at the 2018 numbers, and I think they set records once again. I think they had like almost 217,000 people just in round 3 alone, and had almost 720,000 people overall for the week down at the Open. And if you said you probably thought those numbers were even larger, I can only imagine what that must be like.
Yeah, Saturday morning when we got in line probably about 4:45. They don't open the gates until 7 a.m. and we were sitting waiting in line. And there's probably 6, 7, 8,000 people waiting to go through the gate. So I mean, when those gates opened, the people trying to take the tickets, they jumped on the tables to get out of the way. Nobody was scanning tickets. I mean, if you were there that early that day and you didn't have a ticket, it didn't matter because you were getting in regardless.
Wow. When you watch it on TV, of course, you think of 16 right away. They show a lot of highlights from that area. And it's kind of fun when they do some of those crowd pans and, you see a lot of people dressed up. I mean, of course, we see a lot of representation from our area of, whether it's the Minnesota Vikings or I've seen some of the UND stuff worn before. And do you see quite a few people kind of got their own little themes?
Yeah, so the Minnesota Vikings guys, those are the guys we've been going with for years. So they're all from the Minneapolis area. A lot of them went to ASU, and this is their one time a year to get back down there if they're not still in the area. So it's good to see those guys every year. I'm one of the guys that started wearing the UND hockey jersey here about probably 10 years ago, and it's just kind of growing from there. Everybody tries to put their little signature on it and get noticed.
It's also fun, when you're watching that. Of course, you see the players, and there's a little harassment going on. You better hit a quality shot, or the boo birds are coming on out. It was kind of funny when they were talking when Tom Hoagie from Fargo was playing the hole, and I don't remember what round that was, but I know the commentator Tom had happened to hit his tee shot, and he hit it long beyond the green, and didn't hit a great chip or pitch shot back into it, and then missed the putt. And the commentator said this could be like the only guy that might get booed 3 times. And so it sounds like the crowd is kind of harsh. Is there anybody in particular that's been kind of fun to watch or harass as far as when you've been there?
It all depends on the shot, and a lot of it's where you're from. If you're European, you're going to get a little more negative comment, and you're going to get a little more harassment, and you're going to get you got to hit a quality shot. There's not too many negative things that are said. I mean, it's getting to the point now where there's noise constantly throughout. So, I mean, people are even yelling in their backswings, but the noise is so constant, it's not really getting to the players, and they kind of know what to expect now over the years. So they're not taken too off guard by it.
Well, I tell you what, it seems like that crowd's got some high standards, because there's some shots in there I think, well, that's not a horrible shot, and they're still getting booed. But that's all, I guess, part of the fun. Is there anything in particular as far as over the years that's kind of stood out as far as any just wacky, unusual moments?
Well, a couple years ago you had a streaker, so that always kind of takes the cake. But no, it's kind of been nice over the last number of years is on Saturdays they moved the tee box up right next to the GA stand, Grand General Admission stands on 16 tee box there. So we're about 15, 20 feet away from them as they're hitting, so we're able to communicate a little clearer to what they should be doing and what shot they should be hitting and what club they should be hitting, and we give them the yardage, and sometimes the caddies don't agree.
Well, that is really nice that you support those players like that and help them on out. I'm sure they greatly appreciate that. What, overall, outside of like hole 16, and I hear now even 17, I hear is becoming almost like 16, where there's getting to be more and more grandstands and it's starting to get more enclosed. But outside of when you think of things like 16, what is it that kind of brings people, spectators, back year after year to that event?
I think it's just how much fun, how much of a party atmosphere it is. It's not like regular golf. It's the one dry year where, there's a party going on and there's a golf tournament at it. And it's something that a lot of people are kind of putting on their bucket list to do it at least once. You met a group from Atlanta. They were getting out of town because the Super Bowl was there, and they just happened to be sitting by us on 16. And after talking to them that day, they said they'll never miss another one. They're going to be back every year. So I think once people experience it, they see how much fun it actually is, and what it's actually somehow it's helping our game, that kind of ruckus atmosphere. But it's bringing more golf fans into the market. It's helping us grow our game, but it's not something that the players probably want to see every week.
I was just going to say, do you see this being somewhat contagious? I mean, do you think other events may try to seek a little bit of that, or do you think the Phoenix event is enough maybe for the calendar year?
I think it's probably enough, in my opinion, but I could see, the 3M coming up this year. A lot of these guys that come down there are Minnesota guys, so I don't know if they're going to try to bring some of that atmosphere, find a par 3 there, and kind of try to duplicate the 16th in some fashion. But I think one event's probably enough for the year. You get any more than that, the players might start going to these European events a little bit more and cashing in on that appearance fee.
No, I could certainly understand that as well. Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to myself trying to get back down there soon once again and trying to see all the changes that have been made over the last 20-some years since I've been there last. What's going on as far as in Brainerd this summer? Anything new or exciting? Anything big on tap as far as you're at the Preserve Golf Course, which is in the Brainerd area, kind of up by the Pequot Lakes area. What's happening for 2019 there?
Yeah, so at the Preserve, we're part of obviously Grandview Lodge. And here at Grandview Lodge, there's a lot happening this year. Last summer, we kind of took on quite a large expansion where we're adding a 60-room boutique hotel that'll be opening up here in the first part of June. So it's adding quite a few rooms there. A new recreation center. It's got 2 pools, 1 indoor, 1 outdoor, water slide, 3 different hot tubs, just a lot of different recreational activities to do there, a yoga studio, cycle bar, just a huge workout facility with some outdoor volleyball courts and that kind of thing. And they're also adding, right now, about 22 new cabins around the resort, kind of in and around where the garden course used to be. So the garden course will be reopening here in August. It'll be all par 3s, 120 yards or less. So it'll be more of a kind of a social 9 where grab a couple wedges, a putter, or a couple beverages, and head out and have a little skins game in the evening. And you're at the resort here. So we're adding about 460 beds total at the resort. So that should really kick up our golf numbers as well. We're hopefully going to see.
And you're also associated with what other courses as far as right there in the Brainerd area?
So the Pines Golf Course is here right at the resort. It's 27 holes, a really good golf course, 3 very distinct 9s. Pines hosted our section championship here 2 years ago, and now this year the Preserve is fortunate enough we're going to be hosting it this year at the Preserve. So we're looking forward to that, being able to showcase our facility here to everybody around the Minnesota area, North Dakota, South Dakota, and part of Wisconsin. So should be a good year on tap for us.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm looking forward to coming down there once again and playing it. And if you have not played the Preserve or the Pines, I highly recommend. That is a beautiful area. The golf courses are magnificent, and I imagine the facilities and services you receive there are going to be just as great. So that's fantastic, Adam. It's great to catch up with you once again. I'm glad you got a chance to escape this winter. I hope the remainder of the winter goes by quickly for you, and we're on the golf course soon. So you take care. Thank you once again.
Yeah, appreciate having me on, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
All right, you take care. So, Greg, have you ever played any golf in the Brainerd area before? I mean, it's a beautiful area. They've got a lot of great golf courses. What's your favorite course there?
I like a lot of their golf courses. It's really expanded. You know, we used to play the Pines a lot, and there wasn't a lot of other golf courses around there. I actually like, the two I like the best are Deacon's Lodge, obviously, and the golf course at Adams at the Preserve is a very good golf course.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you there. I really like Deacon's as well, and I really do like the Preserve. I just think the Preserve is a very playable golf course. I think it's kind of fun. There's not too much quirkiness around there, and so I think it's a good course. And like Adam had talked about in our little interview, is that it's kind of exciting. We've got our 2019 PGA Section Championship there this year, and so I'm looking forward to getting back and playing there once again. So,
are we doing a What's My Tee Time podcast live from there?
That could be kind of fun. I bet we could get a lot of guys around and talk about different stories.
We could. That'll be great. We'll have to see if we can't work that out with our bosses, if we can get out of here for those 2 days.
That'll be terrific.
Great. Thanks, Adam, for being our first guest on the show. If you'd like to talk to anybody or have a guest idea for us, please let us know. We'll try to get him on here as well. Now that I know we can have guests, I never even knew we could have guests. Did we pay him or did he pay us?
I think I'm going to probably have to make it right for Adam somehow.
The second question I have is, do Sherry and Susan know they're sponsoring this podcast? Oops, sorry. They're not listening anyway, are they? No response from Matt Cook. That's awesome.
No
Speechless.
response.
First time ever. Okay, that's our next segment will be about the rules of golf, and today we'd like to talk a little bit about penalty areas. It used to be called hazards. Now we call them penalty areas. We still have red penalty areas, which are the red stakes or the red lines that go around them, and we do have direct, which is the yellow. So the red and the yellow haven't changed. The designation has changed slightly from a hazard to a penalty area. Again, if you watch golf on TV, they're slowly getting the hang of what we need to do. One of the changes that we have in the red penalty areas, we used to have 4 options. Now we have 3. You can always do a stroke and distance relief. You can play it from where you played it before. Now you have a relief, again, where they're using reference points now instead of ball last crossed the margin of the hazard. You have 2 club links from the reference point where it last crossed. Again, my terminology, I don't think that's a terminology used anymore. Penalty drop area there, and then you can also take that line where it last crossed that margin of the penalty area and use that as well. We lost the equidistance on the other side, I think, Matt, is that right?
That is correct.
So we do have that for the red. The yellow is still the same, stroke and distance, and then you need to keep behind the line. So that's our kind of 2 things or 3 things that we can do. Most people, Matt, would you agree, never really use the equidistance one anyway?
Yeah, I don't think you'd find it in a lot of situations. I think, I guess I shouldn't say they've totally eliminated that. They do allow it as a local rule still, so there may be certain courses that find it a benefit for the players, and so therefore they may be able to implement that as a local rule, but that would have to be something stated in the rules sheet. But otherwise, it's kind of a hard situation, and it's, if you aren't quite sure what we're talking about, it would basically be like, if you had a hazard, let's say it runs along the fairway, and you hit that ball to the right where the hazard is located, it may be of some benefit that you could actually drop it on the opposite side of that pond or whatever it's declared as far as a penalty area, and that's no closer to the hole, and drop it over there.
I think the relief part of it and the penalty area part of it is one of the most misused or misplayed spots when people really don't know how to drop it from there. So remember, you can always go back and play it from where you played your original shot. 2, you can use that estimated point where the original ball last crossed the edge of the red penalty area. So wherever that ball last crossed that red mark or that red stake, you have 2 club links to drop it in there, or you need to keep that point. Again, that's your reference point, and go back as far as you want, as long as you keep that point between yourself and the hole. Again, I think it's one of the people use line of flight, and there's no such thing as line of flight in golf. Let's get rid of line of flight. Maybe with the new rules, people will quit using that. Let's use reference points that last crossed, and just kind of work from there.
Yeah, it's you watch some people in the past, and you say, well, I see my ball, it splashed like way up here, and so then they think that that's going to be the point that they want to drop it at, basically as far as distance. But however, you do have to kind of watch that path of that golf ball, and like Greg had just mentioned, we got to use that as our reference point once again. So it can be a little confusing, and I think it can be a little bit misplayed.
Yeah, I think so. So that's our rule segment for this podcast. We'll continue down the rules, narrow road, winding road, whatever we want to call it as we keep going through it. Our next segment we'd like to talk about is our number segment. This is one of my favorite segments. I'm not so sure everybody else's favorite, but it's one of mine. We talk about numbers. We throw a number at each other and see if the other person can guess what it is. My first number, Matt, I have two numbers. Actually, I'll use one number. It's 251.
251. That would be the distance I hit it off the tee on a really good tee shot.
Oh, you hit it way shorter than that. What are you talking about? So I started looking up numbers because we're seeing lots of different yardages for par 4s and par 5s and par 3s on the PGA Tour now. So I went to the USGA guidelines and their reference points or their suggestions as to how long a hole should be to play it as a par 3, par 4, par 5, or whatever. And 251 is their minimum yards that they would like to have a par 4. I also looked at, Matt, have you ever played a par 6?
I have played one par 6.
Where was that?
That also was in the Brainerd area, and I want to say that was, is it Madden's, I think, has a couple golf courses. One, I think, might be a bit of like an alternate or executive style course. The other one's a little bit longer. They have a par 6 there. I don't remember the length of it.
I have never played a par 6, but they do have a suggestion that it has to be at least 691 yards long. That is a long ways. Now, on the PGA Tour, maybe that's driver 3-wood for some of those guys now, but 691 yards. So if you hit it 250, if you hit it 251, like you said, with your driver, that's a driver. And if you hit your 3-wood 240, that's 490. You still have 200 yards. So we got driver, 3-wood, 3-iron. Of course, you are putting for eagle then. So if you've ever played a par 6, I have never played one before. I've made a lot of 6s, but never made par on a par 6. My next number, Matt, 105,000. 105,000.
105,000.
Has a little bit to do with our jobs.
Well, that's
And
probably
it's
your
not
salary.
your salary either. It's not mine either.
I couldn't tell you.
105,000. In the year 2018, 105,000 rounds of golf we played at Fargo Golf, which is awesome. Think about it. We opened April 28th, and really starting September 20th through the end of the year, we didn't have a lot of activity or weather that let us play. So thank you everybody out there that plays and supports Fargo Golf. We did have 105,000 rounds last year.
That is really impressive.
I think normally we're at like 125 or 130. But again, with the weather, so we thank you very much. My next two numbers, Matt, 328 and 352. They coexist.
328 and 352. Well, 251 was my longest tee shot, so I'm guessing that's kind of probably your two longer tee shots.
It's actually my average length drive, Matt. Come on, get on it. I play from the senior tees now, so if you measure the yardage from the back tees to the senior tees where my ball is, that cuts me in there. 352 and 328. Those are the number of dimples on a Pro V1 and a Pro V1X. I was just kind of looking around, and I remember growing up, we'd see the numbers 352, 328, 365. So because of the golf ball spin characteristics, I think they adjust the dimple numbers accordingly. So that's the number of dimples on a golf ball.
You've probably had a lot of time this winter. Did you find that stat somewhere, or did you count those?
I physically counted those, Matt. Physically
Put
counted
little marker
those.
dots on each of those.
Oh, why didn't I do it that way? It would have been way easier. I stopped like 3 or 4 times because I got distracted by the dog. Brutal. Matt, what's your lowest score?
My lowest score
Your
ever
lowest score.
was at my now hometown golf course,
Yeah.
Holly Golf and Country Club.
Yeah.
I remember playing with my brother-in-law and my father-in-law, and I can't remember who the fourth was in that group, but I had shot 64 that day,
Holy cow.
which is a par 70, so it's only 6 under. But that's still, I think, the lowest, even under par or just physical or actual score as far as that I've shot so far. Now I think
Is that the lowest score ever shot there? Is that why your
No.
statue is up at Holly, Matt?
There's no statue of me at Holly Golf Course.
Yes, there is.
No, I think actually the course record at that time when it was a par 70 course, it is a par 71 now, I think might have been 62 or 61, I think.
Ooh, that's good plan.
It was, yep. And I think the current course record still might be right around 62, I think. And I think it's actually Chuck Renner who holds that record now. Chuck plays there quite a bit, and if anybody's played in the Pine to Palm, they probably recognize Chuck's name.
He may have been the guy that got beat by the guy who started on the 6 tee box.
It could have been, although Chuck would never be late.
No, Chuck was a great guy. He still is a great guy. Does he still work for Ping?
I think on a very part-time basis, I believe.
Cool. He's a nice guy. He beat me many times in the Pine and Palm. How about, did you ever play shortstops, Matt?
Oh, yeah.
What is a shortstop?
Well, back then, it doesn't seem like we see that really anymore. But back then, there was just a large number of one-day events. You'd come on in, you'd play a 27-hole event. I think if you were playing championship flight, you'd be playing 27 holes, stroke play, medal play, whatever. And there also had like flighted divisions, so you might actually have match play component to that, where you might play as many as 3 9-hole matches in one day. But it was so much fun because things have changed a lot. Like it seems like in the last 10, 20 years. Back then, stroke play was pretty common, and you would get a whole group of guys, really good players, and it didn't matter if you were going to play Fargo Country Club or if you were going to go play Barnesville on a 9-hole course. There would be a lot of people just looking to compete and go play in these competitions, and so it was a lot of fun back then. I remember playing shortstops in Holly and Barnesville and Ada. It's kind of all over the place.
Do you remember in Ada, did you have to hit it over the corner of a building?
Yeah, there was I don't know if it was like a barn structure or what it was.
I think I remember pounding it into that a couple times. We played the shortstop there a few times. We used to play shortstops every weekend. Again, North Dakota, Lisbon had a great shortstop, Cooperstown. We played Ada a lot. We played in Hillsboro, Larimore, and even some Sand Greens things for a while. Carrington used to have a really good shortstop. So if there's anybody out there, if you want to tweet us your low score or maybe a course record at the golf course that you play at, please do that at What's My Tee Time, and just tweet us out what your low score is. My low score in a shortstop is 99.
That's good playing.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, we're shorter golf courses, but that was at the old Carrington golf course. I shot 99 somehow. I don't know if I forgot 15 or 16 shots there, but that's my low score there. And I did shoot in the Meadows Param. I did shoot 64 at the Meadows. I'm not really sure why. I do remember the feeling that I had. I think I was 7 or 8 under through 11 or 12 holes. I couldn't breathe. I was wondering where or how or what cornfield I was going to knock it in. All those bad feelings that happen when I get under par, which is scary. But those are low scores. So go ahead and tweet us out what your low score is or your course record. My next numbers, Matt, I have 2 of them. And these are percentages. 62.6% and 36.4%. And has to do with the PGA Tour.
I'd give up there.
Those are the percentage of putts made by the top 25 PGA Tour players from 5 feet, from 5 to a 9, 11, so just under 10 feet is 62.6%, from 5 to 9 feet, 11 inches, and the 36%, 36.4, is the number of putts top 25 PGA Tour players made from 10 to 15 feet.
Wow, that's really good.
It's lower, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's lower than you would think. From 5 to 10 feet, you think a tour player would make more than 60%. I think so. I give them too much credit anyway, but
right.
I thought that number would have been higher than that.
I wonder, if 5 to 10 is a pretty wide margin there once again. So if you're thinking of like 5 feet, I wonder what the percentage is like between 5 and 6, and then as it gets into 10, if that doesn't kind of starting to lower that margin a little. Or
and once it gets over 15 feet, it goes way down to like 3%.
Right.
Anything more than 20 feet is like 3%. So when we think we should make every single putt inside of 10 feet, top 25 tour players in the world don't make very many of them.
That's why I give Adam Granis. He plays out at our golf course here. Adam's the Fargo Davies boys golf coach too, and he always is complaining about how he doesn't make any putts. He's such a bad putter, never makes any putts. And I was like, Adam, I said, your problem is you hit it so close, so you get so many opportunities, within that 15-foot range, So I think you think you should make a lot of putts, but it's just not necessarily the case. But yeah, I would take 60-some% between 5
Do
and
you
10
think
feet.
you make more par putts than birdie putts from those links?
I probably make a lot more bogey putts than that, because by then it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, good one. My next numbers are, and there's multiple numbers here. So 80 goes with 13 to 14. 90 goes with 12 to 14. And 100 goes with 10 to 13. You're like, Greg, can you pick some more obscure numbers than that? And we don't get together and talk about these numbers.
I don't know if I can understand that
All
pattern.
right, so again, I get a little intrigued with launches and driver speeds and what the ideal launch is maybe with certain driver speeds. So the 80 miles an hour, your maybe window of launch should be 13 to 14 degrees. So it's a little bit higher. Many times that when you get a golf lesson, people come and say, I hit my 3-wood farther than my driver. That might be one of the reasons that they just don't get enough launch on their driver to make that work. At 90 miles an hour, 12 to 14 is the launch that you want. And at 100 miles an hour, it's 10 to 13. And obviously with those numbers, the slower swing speed you have, the more spin you need because you need to get the ball up in the air. So it's not just a dead, no spin at all. Obviously, the faster you hit it, the lower speed or lower spin that you need. You got any numbers for me, Matt?
Well, you were talking a little bit ago about course lengths, and I've got one. I've got number 1, number 8, and number 607.
1, 8, and 607. No clue.
So you were talking about playing par 6s and the length of it. The 1 refers to driver, the 8 refers to 8 iron, 607 was the yardage of this particular hole. Dustin Johnson hit driver 8 iron into a 607 in Saudi Arabia here a week ago. That was pretty impressive, I thought.
And if you've ever played a 600-yard hole, that's a long way. I mean, that's a long ways.
I remember Chris Croach, Adam Haugen, and I'm trying to think of who a friend of Adam. He was a caddy at Erin Hills. We were playing Erin Hills. And
What distance do you play Erin Hills from, Matt?
Erin Hills has got an unpublished rate and set of tees that actually plays, I think it's right around 8,300.
8,300 yards.
Yes, so we get there in plenty of time for our tee time, and we're hitting golf balls and warming up. And Adam's friend, like I said, who is a summertime job, caddies at Erin Hills, he comes walking over and he goes, "Where do you guys want to play from today?" And of course, if anybody knew Chris Croach, he's right away going to say, "Well, we're going to play from the tips." And this guy starts laughing. He's like, "Okay, no, really, where do you guys want to play from?" And Chris goes, "I'm serious. We want to play from the tips." Now, this is a guy that's caddied out there for 3 years. He goes, "I don't know if I can find all those tees." So it's not somewhere that most people play from. But I think we played, it was at least 8 par 4s that were in excess of 500 yards. But I remember playing one par 5 that I think was probably around 650, 660 from where those tees were. And it was a little bit uphill. And I remember hitting a really good driver for me. First of all, every tee shot there, I had to hit a really good driver just to get it actually over the gaunch, and get it in play, not in the fairway.
You were aiming at that one little strip of
one little
strip
the
that they
walking
mow.
path.
Yes.
And so I remember hitting a really good driver. I hit fairway wood really, really well, and I hit 7 iron into that green. And the green, like I said, was elevated as well. It was a little bit of a blind. You could see the top of the flag, but I didn't know what the green surface was like. And I remember hitting a shot in there, and it worked out just right. It somehow funneled off the hill and rolled on down. And so that was the only birdie I made, of course, on the day, and I didn't make many pars. And so driver, fairway wood, 7 iron, and Dustin's hitting driver 8-iron.
And to show you how good those guys are, did Brooks Koepka set a low scoring record at Erin Hills when the U.S. Open was there?
Yeah, I don't remember what he had fired again.
It was low.
Right.
It was low.
Right. Speaking with something on that end of it then, how about this, Greg? +2, -6, -3, -12, and even.
Wow. +2, -6.
-3, -12, even.
Y equals X squared.
Brings you back to your high school math.
It does.
Right?
Algebra.
Those are actually the 5 winning scores at Pebble Beach when they've hosted the U.S. Open. So Pebbles, is hosting the 2019 U.S. Open. So this will be their 6th time hosting this U.S. Open. Those were the 5 previous winning scores. I look at that, +2, -6, -3, and even. And then you have that one outlier, which was in 2000 by Tiger when he shot 12 under. And I think the next closest score might have been over par. I don't remember. He won. Well, I think he won by 15 shots. So yeah. So that was just like crazy. And now Phil just came off his most recent victory at the AT&T this past weekend, and I think he was like 19 under. So do you think the setup might be a little different when they come back in June?
I was just going to say the golf course, A, during a regular event, and B, during a U.S. Open will be slightly different, although we do have a new person in charge of a director of competitions there to set up golf courses. Mike is no longer doing it for the USGA, so we'll have to see. But I'm assuming that the greens will be much firmer and the fairways will be much narrower and the rough will be super long.
Yeah, I did hear that they've already started to kind of groom the fairways, I guess, and so width-wise, maybe a little bit narrower, it might be very close, but I think the rough is going to be considerably longer. I would guess for the AT&T, since the amateurs are playing throughout Sunday, the whole locations probably are a little simpler than what they're going to do for a USGA setup. And then I don't know as far as how the winds are midsummer. I know they caught a little bit of breeze here, I think at least one of the days, I think this weekend. I didn't get a chance to watch it a lot, but I think overall things are going to be, like you said, much drier, so the ball's going to roll out, whereas in this tournament, I think a lot of guys that were hitting fairways, the ball would just hit and stop, where a lot of times maybe it would roll out into those heavy roughs. And so it'll be interesting to see as far as having that. It's kind of strange, playing a U.S. Open at a site that they're playing earlier in the year.
Yeah, and obviously now Phil's the favorite, right?
Right. Well, you would think so.
No, Phil's not the favorite.
Although
he might be the favorite.
I think they had talked, I believe, in approach shots. I think he was first this past week, and then I think in proximity to the hole, I think he was tied for second. So I mean, if he could continue that, it sounds like it's that driving is not as important. Obviously, putting is still going to be extremely important. But, it's kind of about getting that ball close to the hole.
Should be interesting to see what the scores are.
Right. I got another number for you. 27,196,504.
Your net worth. No, I'm kidding.
You'd have to move that decimal over like several places.
How many golfers played more than 10 rounds last year?
No, I don't. That could be right, but that's not the answer. Bernhard Langer played this past weekend. And that is his career earnings after his latest victory at the Oasis Championship, which was held in Florida. He surpassed Hale Irwin, all right? And so I think he leads Hale now by about 75,000 and some change. Bernhard's now 61.
61, and I watched a little bit of that. Oh, my goodness, he's good.
Isn't he? And what great shape he is as well. It looks like he could be playing for a number of years. And the guy's now coming out there. I mean, he's playing with a lot of competition right now, so still win these. I mean, these guys are coming off PGA Tour at age 50. And
I do know one of his goals was to beat Hale. I don't know, and there may be a couple more records that Hale has other than the earnings. Maybe it's number of victories or something, but I do know that he has. I do know a goal of his was to try to get past Hale at some point. 61 to play like that is pretty darn amazing.
Yeah, that really is. I was impressed.
Any other numbers, Matt?
I don't have any other numbers.
That will end our number segment for this podcast. We are now to the end of our podcast for this time, and we have what we call the Greggie and Mattie Awards. Mattie, do you have an award you'd like to give out?
Yeah, I'd kind of do a shout out to, you had mentioned his name, I think, in one of our first episodes, Matt Wolf, who is a sophomore at Oklahoma State. He has now just won his 4th straight NCAA tournament. That would be basically a full field competition. And so that was pretty impressive. And I think you made allude to the fact of, Matt doesn't have the most, I would say, cookie cutter swing. It's a little different.
He's not Adam Scott, looking wise.
Right, correct. He might be as far as bringing that club into the golf ball, but his path from start to get to that point is a little unusual.
He is maybe the next big thing. He played in Phoenix, made the cut. I think he ended up maybe 3 or 4 under, so he wasn't bad. But if you follow the NCAAs at all, you're probably going to see his swing. If you haven't, go ahead and go out there and see what it looks like. He hits it so. I mean, like all of them. I mean, the how far everybody hits it now in a college event is scary. But he is a very good player, and he's won how many in a row?
4 in a row.
All right. I wonder what the record is.
That I don't know.
This week, my award, Matt, my Greggie Award goes to, and it's not specifically a golf-themed award quite yet, but it's Mother Nature. Mother Nature, stop it! Stop Mother Nature. We're in February, and pretty soon it's going to start to affect a little bit about golf in this area. Not right now, obviously, but if we keep getting 4 or 5 inches of snow 2 or 3 times a week, we're going to be looking for some real help from Mother Nature. So Mother Nature, stop it right now.
We were sitting here only a few weeks ago, and I looked out. We're actually in the lower level of the clubhouse right now at Rose Creek Golf Course. We're looking out, and I was thinking, man, you know what? It could be a really early start to the season. So I probably put the kiss of death was right there. Now I look out, and there is a lot of snow out there. Yesterday, I had a chance to look up at my roof, and I was like, boy, there is some serious snowbanks. And so, like a crazy dude, I climbed up there, and I was going to start shoveling. I've never seen so much snow accumulating on my roof in a long time. It is nuts. I was shoveling. I probably had some drifts there that were probably at least 3 feet high, and I was pushing off, and finally found some of my vents and everything else that I needed to find that weren't exposed. So yeah, I'm hoping this is going to quit pretty soon.
Yeah, so Mother Nature, stop it. If you'd like to help us sponsor this event so our wives don't have to keep working as long as they want to, please go ahead and email me at greggm@pga.com if you'd like to help sponsor greggm@pga.com. Matt, we've got through 3 episodes. We're doing really well here. We got 3. We had our first guest. Thanks, Adam Haugen, for joining us. We hope to see you soon on What's My Tea Time.